YouTube. All right. And good morning, everybody.
Hi,
And
I'm Sunny.
Can I go on that island? I want to go now.
exactly. There we go. And Dove and Lori and Sharon. This mic is all yours.
Okay, can I start?
Sure.
Please do.
Okay, well, it's just nice to be back. I just spent 2 weeks in Mexico and it was wonderful. It looked like what your picture is, Dove, sunny and palm trees and it hasn't been too bad here though. There's been some sun here in Michigan. But it was really cool because I didn't know what to expect down there because I was going to stay at the place where I had stayed with Rod last year for 2 months while I nursed him after his strokes. And I didn't know what to expect, how that would be. But it was very interesting because on the way to the airport, this bald eagle flew right over our car, right in front of our car. And my sister saw it and she goes, there's Rod, because Rod has come a number of times as a bald eagle. And she goes, he's going with you to the Mexico trip because that's where he lived. And so then I got there, and the very first meeting they had morning meetings at the villa. And at the morning meeting, I just had tingles all over in my crown chakra, third eye, all over my body, the right side, because like Rod was sitting on my right side and I could feel him. And he was saying, oh, it's just so great to be out of a body. But, I loved my body because Rod was a real macho guy, loved life, loved sensual stuff. And he goes, but it's even better being love. And I said, do you want me to tell the group that you're here? And he said, no. Well, toward the end of the group, one of the other members said, oh, Lori, I'm so glad you're here because I feel Rad's here with you. I can feel his presence. So then I told him, I said, yep, he's here. And I told him what he said. And then everyone that I met down there, they all knew Rod, and they kept saying, gosh, Lori, I feel him with you. He's so here. We can, it's like the two of you are one. And that's what I was feeling. It was this integration of truth and integration of oneness. And I was talking with one person and I said, the tendency is I want to say, I wish Rod's body was here. I wish he was here with me in form so we could dance and go out to eat and all of that. And then I realized, wait a minute, that's clinging to the illusion. My true nature is formlessness. And now Rod is formless. He's always been formless, but we think that he appeared. We think that we have a past. And so it's like when I want his body to hug him, I am clinging to the illusion. And that was a huge shift for me. It's like, wait a second. No, I cannot do that. And then I came back here and I started thinking again about this boyfriend that I miss. I saw him at church, I talked to him and everything, and it's painful. But what's usually happened is in the ego mind, 90% of my thoughts are about my relationships. And we all have that. We all have some round robin circular tape running in our minds, whether it's about our kids or it's about our work or it's about our relationships or our health or whatever it is. Our thoughts ruminate on that. And for me, it's always the relationship that I've been in or all the relationships, comparing them all. And it's this ego tape. And so yesterday I'm like, no, I am done. I am not thinking about him anymore. I'm just done. And boy, did the ego kick up with, now I'm bored. Now there's no purpose in life. Now, there's no chance of getting back with him. And so now I just feel all this despair and terrible. Oh, yuck. I don't even want to live and all this kind of stuff, all the stuff around the special relationship. So I was just watching all of that. And it was really great because in the past, I wouldn't have been able to even stop the thoughts. But this time, what I would say is I'd feel the thoughts, hear the thoughts come up, and then I'd just say, no, no, my mind is still. I am Christ's vision. My mind holds only what I think with God. And just with this resolve to have a still mind, a spacious, open awareness, it calmed down. But what wanted to fill it up was there's no purpose in life, this boredom that the ego wants to come in with. So the ego keeps us distracted and busy with our addictive thinking, or it keeps us busy with external activities. And when we stop, it's like, see, life is completely meaningless, which it is here. Life here is completely meaningless, except here is also where heaven is. Heaven is here. There is nowhere else. Heaven is now. There is no other time. And I've been focusing on, I always feel the presence of God in everyone and everything. And as I'm forgiving the world, that idea of how safe the world will look to me when I can see it. It will not look anything like what I imagine I see now. Everyone and everything will lean toward me to bless me. I will recognize in everyone my dearest friend. So that's the review of lesson 48. And these ideas that the world becomes different and it's transformed. And this morning I was looking at lesson 75, the light has come, I have forgiven the world. And once again, the message is when you forgive the world, you forgive all of your old things that you thought made you happy. And even the weird, sick ideas that ruminating or obsessing on problems or issues will make you happy. That's what the ego thinks it does. When we let go of those, we have Christ's vision and we're awakened. And that lesson 75 is promising you will see the world completely differently. And it's starting where it's different for me. It's not completely transformed, but it's a lot better than it used to be, I'll tell you. And then today's lesson 32, I have invented the world I see. And in Ken's commentary, it says, looked at from a metaphysical point of view, my entire life, from birth to death, is my dream, the script of victimization I wrote to accomplish the ego's purpose. And so as we let go of each of these victimization scripts and each of these thoughts of I'm bored, there's no purpose, there's nothing I want here, which is true, there isn't, but there beyond this world, there is a world that I want. Lessons 128 and 129. The world I see holds nothing that I want. But beyond this world, there is a world that I want, and it is available here. So this morning, I was waking up with a lot of heaviness, but I knew that coming on here would change that. And I knew that it would just go away. I was just watching it and just saying, none of those thoughts are true. None of those ego thoughts about anything are true, and they're not mine. And so I can choose again. And I did, and I'm grateful. And now I'm happy to be here with you, Sharon, and you, Dove, and Lynn, and everyone else. And I'm going to turn the mic over to Sharon.
Thanks, Laura. Lori, I got that beautiful card from you and I texted you, but I never know if you're getting getting it on your phone because sometimes it seems to go to your landline. So
I didn't get the text.
It always comes into the landline. So I'm going to have to get a hold of you because the card was just beautiful. And I thought it was so thoughtful. So thoughtful. Thank you.
Welcome.
So, I don't know how long it's taken this mind to realize that everything that's ever happened to me happened from my thoughts. And it's not conscious thoughts, it's subconscious thoughts. The conscious mind, and is something that, blinds us because we're seeing a world just by our filter, our beliefs. All we're looking at all day long is concepts, one concept after another, and believing by the power of our minds that it's true. After all, we have memories, right? So this body has been sick. If you want, of course, the ego would love me to tell you how long, but I will anyway. But, since October 7th, when I got COVID, and I keep getting sick. So there's some kind of infection that's running in the, in the threads of COVID through the body. It's just different. Like Omicron. It's not even like something that I even understand, except, for about a month now, I've had chills. But to watch it from the witness is the only thing that can help this mind just be in the stillness, right? And what is the stillness? Is what we are. Everything is stillness here. This body is just a block. It's a thought in my mind that I think is important, and there's an attachment to it. And what I see is that it's thinning out, just thinning out, thinning out. But it's interesting because I've had a lot of like stuff that needed to come up. And some of it I didn't even know that I didn't even know I remember. The way this body mind is undoing is it seemed to happen from the crown all the way down to the, I guess you would say the root chakra, or would be the solar plexus, where this body mind was hiding all of its judgments and what they call in this world trauma. But who comes in a world that doesn't have trauma? I mean, you're not in a world, you're looking at thoughts, and you're traumatized to begin with because you can't find your creator, but you don't even know that, right? And so taking responsibility authentically is to know that these thoughts that I am dreaming about created a world, and this world that I created in this dream was not an easy world. I don't know who had an easy one, but this one didn't. It was about special hate and special love. And each challenge that the mind body had of Sharon was just a projection of fear thoughts and beliefs of what I thought I was. Not good enough, not worthy, guilty. All of that is an unwinding of the mind that never was. Right? So what Ken was saying is, because Ken Wapnick, and this is something I really want to talk a little briefly about, is that this man had so much humility. Not a time that I've ever heard him teach did he think he was better than anyone as a teacher. Because the way, I see it is it's hard for a spiritual teacher not to fall victim to the beliefs that they know something. Nobody could know anything here. You can only see your own mind, and you're only ever teaching yourself. So I chuckle sometimes when certain beings are teaching spirituality because they're teaching it from their frame of reference. I can't teach anybody the truth. It's impossible. What I'm seeing in my vision now is that the truth is I don't even know what I am. And that's scary too, a body-mind vehicle, because the idea that I know something was the whole thing with an ego. We're safe because we know nothing. Yes, there's characters in the play that we are running in politics. There's likes and dislikes. But it's all about division. And that's all we're doing all day long, is dividing ourselves from our beingness, from this one true gift that we were fortunate to get. You can't teach the truth because we are the truth. How can you teach anything that you already are? And so when a teacher is teaching, what are they doing? Well, who knows? The way I see it is it's a time for the ego to have grandiosity, because then they are a teacher. But you see, it's very clear that the only thing that we can ever do is teach ourselves. So it's important to this mind to realize the biggest lesson that I learned is that nobody knows how I can get home, but this me with a capital M. It's not about anything else. If I share about the fact that, I've had the chills, and then you hear another course student say, well, you're not the body. What is that? That's just the other being talking to itself, reminding itself it's not a body. It's not personal. These thoughts just come up. So we're all just reminding ourselves continuously that to be trapped in a mind of the ego is hell, pure hell. Mine worries about every little thing to keep us occupied. So who invented it? We did as one. It's not like I said, this is the part, sometimes, a course student or teacher will say, well, you picked it. No individual picked these parts that I know of. And if I did, so be it. I don't know. And I don't even care. What I do care about is that the honesty that I'm coming to, that no one can teach awakening. Awakening happens organically by the higher self, Holy Spirit. And I've moved through some I would say like storms lately. Things have come up that I have not even remembered. And rather than come in and say, this is what's coming up, yada, 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 I'm just working with spirit. I'm just realizing that my path is mine. I grew up as a codependent personality, and all I was a people pleaser my whole life to survive, I would think, in this world. And that just happened because of the thoughts I created or the story that Sharon had. But all of that is a learning experience. So what is the lesson for Sharon today? No one can teach the truth but my mind. No one. So I gather with my brothers and sisters to join, but no one's ahead of the game and no one's behind the game because we're simply just this, an isness. There's nothing in that except peace. So over to you, Doug. Thank you.
Okay, that was great sharing, Sharon. Really, I loved all of it. And yeah, I listened to you, Laurie, and let me kind of say that yeah, if your purpose is relationship, and then all of a sudden there's no relationship, I can understand how the mind says, "Oh my God," you know. You kind of remind me of Taylor Swift. She wins all of her Grammys by talking about her relationships that she ended. Of course, she's famous for her relationships. So, and that's how we learn. We actually learn through our relationships. But as you know, the course is all about if you're into a special relationship, the ego wants something more, better, special, different. It's about remembering we all start with a special relationship. That is for sure. And then finally, we come to a place where we say, is there another way of looking at our relationship? Because if your purpose is truth, and I think that's the thing that drives me. I started with that as a purpose to love the truth, as Regina says, I don't care what the truth is. That's all I want. I want the truth. So if you want the truth, sooner or later, something like the Blue Book, Course in Miracles, is going to fall into your lap, and then it becomes one of acceptance. It really becomes one of acceptance because the part of our mind, which we call the ego, came or was invented to deny the truth. And exactly as you say, Sharon, you can only be affected by your thoughts. I think that's how you started out. Actually, that's what Ken Wapnick says in today's lesson. Just to add a little to what you already shared earlier, Laurie. On today's lesson, I've invented the world I see, lesson 32. And then he comments, I am not a victim of the world that I see because I am the victim of my thoughts, which made up this world. So nothing out there is really affecting me. My thoughts are affecting me. But in the ego mind, the whole ego mind is I invented this world, so that I can be a victim and see someone out there as separate, different, and guilty. Poor me, I'm innocent. Please don't punish me, punish them. That's how this whole world works, and you got to laugh when you actually see the movie that we made to pretend. Well, those people out there are hurting me, and poor me, I'm a victim. I mean, that's why he says, I am not a victim of this world. I invented this world so that I can not be punished, but I'm punishing myself by listening to a voice that's not my true self. So my purpose is denial of the truth, denial of the truth. Going on, he says, my entire life from birth to death is my dream. And if you're really doing the course and you're accepting the course the way Jesus writes it, I'm the dreamer of the dream. I'm the cause. I'm doing this to myself. And, there's no accident. He says the secret of salvation is I'm doing this to myself. There's no one out there doing anything to me. I'm listening to my thoughts and I'm believing with a big lie. It's your belief in this world that causes the pain and the suffering. So that I wrote to accomplish this. He says, the script of victimization I wrote to accomplish the ego's purpose. So whenever you see anybody out there, I don't care if it's your parents, your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your first grade teacher, your 10th grade teacher, it's all the same. They don't really exist except you want them to be there so that you could say, I was poorly taught. That's right. That's a line right out of the Course in Miracles. Stop teaching yourself. You were poorly taught. Ask to see another teacher. And you might say the whole Course in Miracles is about choosing a new teacher. Because, until you're doing the Course in Miracles, I'm talking about me now. I don't know about Holy Spirit. I wasn't brought up with the idea of Holy Spirit, although, we have other words, so words shouldn't really get in the way. But here you begin to have an intimate relationship, which is a holy relationship with the truth. The truth, the truth shall set you free. Truth will correct all the errors of my mind and will set me free. So what we really want is the freedom from this invention that I made that I am really a prisoner of until I say, is there another way above all else? I am determined to see differently. I want a new teacher. And with that, Laurie, I'll just turn this back on over to you.
Thanks, Deb. You mentioned Taylor Swift, and she must be a 4 on the Enneagram, the romantic, the hopeless romantic. Although right now with this Travis Kelce thing, it seems like, oh, she's finally found the one, right? And this is the big one, and he's a Super Bowl champ and all this kind of stuff. And in the dreaming of the world, it's very interesting how much fascination there is with her and with him. And he's on the cover of People magazine this week with his brother, and she was a Time Person of the Year. And when we get to this place, we go, and you know what? That's going to fail too. That's going to be disappointing to both of them too at some point. Maybe they'll pull it out. Who knows? But when we get to this place of this world holds nothing that I want, beyond this world, there is a world that I want. I'm not there all the way. Of course, we are there. In truth, we are there. And when I remind myself, I am home, I am dreaming, I am mind in mind. But in the daily life, I feel like it's not totally there yet. It just doesn't feel like it. It's just, when I think I'm Lori, I feel like crap. Any of us, when we think we're the dream character, we feel like crap. And so a lot of that, I'm noticing that I'm just watching all of those ego thoughts. I know they're not mine, and I reaffirm that. Those are not my thoughts. Those are not my feelings. I don't have to buy into those. Right now, I'm in a kind of a down period, but it will pass. It's no big deal. It's not the truth, and it'll be okay. But I catch this idea like, oh, well, I can't wait for the next guy. Well, that's baloney too. Pleasure and pain are the same. I get that. And to even get excited about, oh, the next person coming in is going to be a healthier relationship. Well, that's not going to satisfy me. I have to feel God's presence everywhere with everything. I don't want it anymore to be in a special relationship. And my true goal is to be awake and to know my oneness with God. And I'm getting the answers to that in form. This person that broke up with me was a blessing. It was such a blessing because I would not have broken up with him. And the relationship was nice. It was very nice. There was really a lot of good things in it. And it taught me a lot. It's like, do you really need this? No. Do you really need that? No. What you need is to be present and to be aware. And I loved him, and I was present and I was aware in the present moment, and I was happy. And it didn't fit a lot of the relationship parameters or definitions that I thought it should have. And that was good. That was a good thing. It's like what you were saying, Sharon. We have to know that we don't know anything. I feel like I don't know a doggone thing anymore. And as far as teaching, I have pulled way back from any of those thoughts of teaching or writing. It's like, because I don't know anything. And I remember back when I was trying to get something started to be a more prominent teacher, I couldn't stand all the computer work and the social media work. I just couldn't stand it. And then it felt kind of phony to me because I was doing it for money. I didn't have this drive to spread the course. And that felt icky to me. It's like, if this isn't coming organically, where it just feels like I can't not do this. And just like when the book came through me, it came through me. I couldn't not do it. But with all the other stuff, it was forced and I didn't like it. It felt phony. And it's like, I don't want to be a spiritual teacher teaching something that is ego. I didn't want to be a spiritual ego teaching. And so I backed way up, and I feel a lot better. So with lesson 32, I always combine this with lesson 31. I'm not a victim of the world I see because I have invented the world I see. And Ken goes on to say, when I invite him in, the Holy Spirit joins me there to teach me this world can now become a classroom in which I learn I made it up. And I loved what you said, Sharon, about individually, we didn't make this up. Like, people think in metaphysical circles, they think, oh, I made up this script. And I was just talking to a friend of mine who's going through a really difficult court situation. And she was kind of talking like that. And I said, you didn't do this. This is the ego script. There is no blame here. Your only responsibility is for sight. I am responsible for what I see. You didn't make up this court case. What you made up is this idea that you are this person who's in this world going through a court case. That is where the Holy Spirit can help you see that your entire life is a dream. And you are the Christ, and you are safe at home right now. You're not going through this court case. And she said, well, that's helpful. And it is helpful because we pile on this guilt. Once we realize that we're making up the world, then we add another layer of guilt to it and say, well, I've made up all my personal situations. No, we haven't. Because I remember this one friend of mine, he's an Enneagram 9, like you are, Dove. He's a real peacemaker. And he felt really, he goes, I hate being a 9. I wish I wasn't 9. Why did I give myself a 9? Because we want to be something else. But we didn't make up the ones that we are. We didn't really personally choose that, and I used to feel that way with mine. Oh man, why do I have to be this? I don't like being this. I can't stand it. I'm so tired of it. Because he didn't like the 9 because he didn't have a lot of ambition in the world. He just wanted to be happy. He wanted other people to be happy. And he found it a curse. And I know, Dove, you're pointing to happy. But, like with you, Dove, being a 9, it's been such a blessing to so many people. And that's what we have to do. We just have to look at, we're not that. We are not that. The entire world, our entire birth to death. And that's what I've been going through, like no past, no future. Just none of it means anything. All these thoughts, zip, zero, nada. They mean nothing. So I'm going to turn this over to you, Sharon.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that, as Ken Wapnick would say, we really do, as the one son, want to be separate on some level here. There's a separation desire to be special. However, you can't like stop the organic process, and you can't fail this organic process. It's impossible because there's no you. You can't do it wrong. You know, it's funny because some teachings, like I was listening just for fun to Humanity's Team with Neil Donald Walsh, and his group was saying that we do make our dreams individually. Now, that didn't sit with me in a wrong or right way, because I remember Gary Renard saying, and these are just voices in my mind, because remember, there's no Gary Renard. There's just this voices in different, some, sons of God talking to themselves, really. But he did say that when we chose separation, we chose the dream, no matter how it turns out. And so some of us have had tougher dreams than others, or it appears that way. But in the end, there's no order of difficulties in miracles. But the ego wants us to feel special, even with the worst story. The ego wants us to be sick too. The ego has luxuriated in this character being sick, because then it gets special treatment, right? It gets to be taken care of in a special way. So these are all things that I'm looking at and really seeing that the only thing that helps me ever is a sense of humor. It's not about whether I did it wrong, or so-and-so said that and she shouldn't have said that, or this one did that. It's not even about that. We are listening to an insane voice. Of course, the ego is going to want you to have another boyfriend. Why would it want you to be alone? Because it's just like the apple. When you give the apple to Snow White and the witch already knows it's poison, that's the ego. Have another relationship. That's just part of the curriculum. Or have a piece of chocolate, have 5 pieces. Anything to distract the mind. But there is no one here that has personally, that I know of, chosen exactly their story. However, when I was a child, I did say I was going to have an art school, and I found it really hilarious that I ended up having one. And I also was told by my grandmother this was a dream. So all of this, and then my ex-husband always sang Cats in the Cradle, and that's what he did. In fact, this is an interesting story. It's funny how hate, can just turn into present love. My ex-husband left the family, when, I guess I was 40, and I'm 69. And I have worked through a lot of hate. It's funny because if you just work on one forgiveness opportunity, just one being, then everyone else is forgiven, right? But I wouldn't have picked him. I want to say this. I would have picked my mother, because that was a core wound for this character. I did not bond with her even from birth, because she had polio. So I look at these things and I think to myself, they are blocks to the awareness, but they were also gifts, huge gifts, because my ex-husband now invited, our boys to visit him in Florida. Now, I had to give him money back. He took everything, and then the state offered me $100,000, and my husband now did not like that my ex-husband was absolutely stalking me. This was maybe about 8 years ago. So, Cliff said, I don't want this in my life. I'll just put that money in your name. So I let it go because it seemed right, because I'm really under no laws but God's. And I understood where Cliff was coming from. But this is a funny thing. He invited the boys, my sons, to visit him in Florida with their families, but he doesn't want to pay for them to fly. Now, if he didn't have the money, I could see that, but he keeps buying big houses. So yesterday, I just came out and just thought to myself, no excuses. The man's living his dream, and his seems like a nightmare to me, because he thinks holding on to his money is something that he's gaining. And with that, I just had a forgiveness opportunity, because the forgiveness opportunity is he got all the money and I got the whole world. Now, I'm not competing with him, but I'm just showing my mind how everything that happened to this mind was absolutely a gift. So when my son called me and said, I'm not going, he was so hurt and angry at his father. And I didn't make excuses for his dad and be the good Sharon, because, I have this program running that I'm codependent and a people pleaser. I mean, really, to survive in my formative years, that was the only function that this ego could take on. So I'm always saying, well, he doesn't really know that he did this, and he probably doesn't, But here's the thing, none of it matters. Because the biggest thing that I learned is there are no order of difficulty in miracles. We are always being taken care of by the one. There is no way that you can mess this up. I don't care what teacher is telling us to meditate 12 hours a day or comparing us to another student, which I have heard with many teachers. One, for instance, that used to be in Gather. And I don't say anything bad, but I do say that I know what's best for my mind, not that teacher, just like I know my dream worked for me, not because of the abuse, but because of spirit, because of God. No one's better than anyone in this process. No one's more advanced. Everyone is in the perfect place to evolve. And I think one of the downsides that I saw in this world is, and I see it a lot in course groups, but not in our group. We have a group Monday, Tuesday, and Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays that Lynn holds that I find to be the biggest gift I've had yet in this whole process, because everyone that we join with really considers themselves equal. And, we make mistakes in this process. It's part of the learning experience. But none of us are special, and none of us are in it except love. And that's what this group's about. It's about love. So how do I feel about my ex-husband coming back to him, what he just did with my children? I think it's unfortunate, but in the story, this is what showed up for him. And I feel like there was no calling my other son to say, you know what your father did? Because that is what I would have done. You know what he did again? Because it was all necessary for my dream. But when I look at the hero of the dream, I think to myself, what a magnificent story. I mean, I had a lot of what the world would call abuse. And this happened all my life. And it looked as though I was the one who was the good one and the others were the bad. But these were all my beliefs showing up in my projections. So why do I talk about bringing into the fact that, my friend Karen and I are going to maybe do something on Tuesday that Ken Wapnick has talked about. And that is that this is an individual process. That's why the course was written for the individual mind. Now, ego gets in there and it forms groups. And this is a group now that is truly rooted in unity. The group that Lynn has now. That's how I see it. Again, this is my experience only. But I have been in other groups where there's a hierarchy and it doesn't work. It works for a lesson, and a lesson. But the lesson is always nobody knows. Like Linda said to Dorothy, you've had the answers all along. And that's true for me. Over to you, Doug.
Wow, that was really super, by the way. And thanks for bringing up the topic. Hi, Zoma. Welcome, Regis. And all the ships out there at sea. Let's go to press. Those are famous words of Walter Winchell when I was a kid listening to him on the radio. Yeah, God's sons are equal in will, God's sons are equal in will, all being the will of their Father. This is the only, whenever he says the word only, he wants you to listen. This is the only lesson I came to teach, that we are all the equal sons of God. There's only one. There's only one. And I just put that up in the chat, and the one I put up in the chat just before that comes from chapter 8, section 4, and another sentence from the same section. What is one has no opposite. Oh, really? Herein lies the peace of God. God's will is perfect equality. Oh, there's that word equality again. Okay. Sameness, sameness, equality, that's the answer to the ego's thought system that only sees differences. And you make anyone special, you're making them different than others. Really? I mean, that's a pure lie. That's a belief system, and we all fall into the same belief system. And then from chapter 11, section 6, there is exactly as you just said, Sharon, there's no order of difficulty in miracles because all of God's sons are of equal value and their equality is their oneness. And that's exactly why our groups work so smoothly. And, it's just happened that, in the Yiddish expression, beshert, it was meant to be that we all come together at this place on a way of seeing each other as whole, perfect, equal, not better, not worse, just and it didn't start out like that. It did not start out, but it got to be like that as we began to share with each other and we began to see that each is whole and is complete, doesn't need anything, So the idea that I think someone needs something, I don't know, Laurie says I'm a 9 because all I really want is peace, or I really want happiness. And I notice that happy is always sitting on my lap, and I get to be with happy. And I'm going to talk a little about my own idea of special relationships. I started out in life always like everybody else in special relationships. And probably I was a little unorthodox because I had more than one special relationship at a time. And then all of a sudden I found one relationship, which became a long-term relationship. And as it says in the teacher's manual, section 3, what's the nature of relationships? It's a short term, and there's middle term, and then there's the long term. And those who stay in the long term actually are there to help others if they seem to fail along the way. And that's pretty much what's been happening in my life. I find that I can help people who seem to need to have a breakthrough to get to the next rung on the ladder, to the next level. Because what happens in this world of you or me, us or them, there are pitfalls that in a way we are blindsided to, and can't really get through that blindsided pitfall. And it always really has to do with equality. It really always has to do with equality. If you see inequality of any kind, you're listening to the wrong teacher. And he says, if you're listening to the wrong teacher, you've been taught wrongly yourself, and you need to ask to see it differently, and you need a new teacher. Now, the Holy Spirit is always there for us. What we are responsible for is ask to see it differently. And it's really about letting go of the past and being here now. In the now, you can see anything perfectly. In the now, you see things exactly the way they are. So as I realized that thing that I used to say that Ken Wapnick says about forgiveness, says, don't look at it the way you set it up. Look at it the way it really is. And today I was reading through ACIM blog monthly newsletter that's put out by can't think of his name. Lynn, help me. Your Saturday thing in the morning.
Bruce Rawls.
Bruce Rawls, right? He sent me, and if you're on that thing, open up the thing. There's a guy out there who did the exact same thing as I did many years ago with the 12 core themes of for forgiveness, and I'm going through it. He has pages and pages of things that he took from the course, all which are the kind of things that you want to remember. So he probably has something as long, almost as long as the 12 core themes. So I'm going through them, and what do I see? That same thing we always say, Ken Wapnick, or Karen and I always say, Ken Wapnick says, don't look at it the way you set it up, but look at it the way it really is. And I said, what? This isn't a Course of Miracles? The first time I realized it. And I went back to look at it. It's from text chapter 21, section 5. I think it's from 21, section 5. Yeah. And and I said, my God, that's where Ken got it from. He took it from Jesus. Amazing. So with that, I'm just going to turn my back on over to you, Laurie.
Thanks, Dev. Okay, what you were saying about equality and everything, that is, I love that about you, about this ACIM gather. It's just so apparent that we are all equal. The thing is if someone else doesn't see themselves as equal, like what I did with that last boyfriend, I saw him as equal to me. He didn't. And he didn't feel like we matched because he's on a different page from the ego. And I'm like, well, doesn't bother me any, but he can't handle it. He's got a lot of shame and guilt right now, but I know that he doesn't have shame and guilt. I know that he's the Christ, but that's okay. You know, he'll get there. I mean, and he's already there. We're all already there. And then Sharon, you said something about the ego wants to be special even with its worst stories. And that is so true. I was thinking about that yesterday when I was feeling that boredom, the ennui, like, oh, what's the purpose in life, you know? And I mean, I am present a lot of the times and I have a really, really nice life, but it just still feels like God is my only goal, but I don't feel this joy with God. I mean, with God by itself. I feel God through people. Feel God through all my relationships. I feel God with nature, with trees. I feel it with my grandbabies. I feel God with everything because God is everything. God is all there is. The presence of love, the presence of God is really all there is. And yet, is there still something that I'm missing? But whatever, that's just ego. I know it's not the truth. But when you were saying ego wants to be special, even with its worst stories, when I was feeling that ennui and the boredom, it was like, yeah, and this is where people get cancer. This is where people get cancer or have a really bad illness or have a tragedy because it occupies them. It occupies them. It takes up their time. They don't have to think about, oh, what am I? Or where am I? Or who am I? Or what is my purpose? Because all of a sudden it's there with this cancer diagnosis or whatever. And you see that with people who say, I can't wait till I get retired. I can't wait to retirement. And then they die. They die in the first year of retirement, right? And that's the ego wanting to be special, wanting to stay apart from God. And so when I notice that, it's like, oh, the present moment is right here, right now. And the ego wants to jump up and say, no, look over here. Look at this problem. Look at this situation. It'll be better when. No, it never will. If that's that Snow White's poison apple that you mentioned, Sharon, anything that we think, oh, I can't wait till that. Well, there's the poison apple. Getting back to lesson 32, I have invented the world I see. Ken says, again, I have invented the world I see refers back to the idea that my life is an invention based on the unreal premise I have been unfairly treated as a little child and therefore in need of defenses. Thus, I, as a healthy ego, literally invent the world that will always prove I am right and everyone else is wrong. And so my attack thoughts and behavior are justified. So thinking of this as I as a healthy ego, and we look at all these talk shows nowadays, and they have a lot of things about, oh, this is how you want to live in order to be happy. You want to have your health look like this. You want your relationships to look like this. You want your free time, your travel time, and your entertainment to look like this. And we have all these ideas about how to be happy. And I did them all. I did all of those, and I was still depressed. And that's where I got the idea of, oh, wait a minute. I am never going to be over depression until I recognize myself as the one self, capital S, as the Christ self. I can do everything right in the world. And a lot of us have done that. We have had money, we've traveled, we've had everything. Been there, done that. That's why I say I don't have a bucket list. I've done all the things in the world that I want to do. And the only thing that makes me really happy is when I remember who I am. That's the only thing. And it doesn't matter what situation I'm in. When I remember that, I am fine. So I'm going to turn this back over to you, Sharon.
It's interesting when I think I'm a body, how different the energy is, right? The energy of the body is a constriction. Most of us, at least at 69, have some pain. And what is a pain anyway? You know, pain is a concept also, you know, because the story that the ego mind's telling us when we physically have pain is just that, a story. We don't know anything. You know, I just sit sometimes just in the space and just realize that I really don't even know what I am. We could say, well, we're the son of God, but that's already a concept. Do we really know what a son of God really is? I mean, it's as high as God. Yes, we go everywhere all the time. I remember, Dove, I think it was you that sent me a book or I bought it, Escape to Everywhere. It was a really great book. The one thing that I think that helped this mind the most was the patience. Patience to know that I didn't have to get anywhere, that I need to do nothing. Yes, I interfered a lot with this dream. Are you kidding me? I was not like an A1, you know, poster course student, not at all. However, it was all part of the curriculum. Because who am I really teaching? Like I said before, nobody's ahead and nobody's behind. Some beings get out of the way so Holy Spirit can speak through them and to them. But there's nothing wrong when the ego comes in, because these are all lessons. I mean, especially the one lesson that I always thought is, I want to have, and I was in the same boat as you, Lori, before I met Cliff. I still wanted, before I die, a really good relationship. If my atonement plan was to have not a good relationship, I'm quite sure that I would come to the conclusion that God, Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, wants what's best for this time traveler. Because it's really not about what you get in this world. It's not about having, you know, a great reputation or being the best anything, because we're all the same. But there's a lot of tricks and tumbles that the ego puts on. And does it put on that because it really wants to hurt us, or is it trying to protect us? Because when we see that it's just trying to protect us, it's a mechanism that when we think that it has power over us, yes, indeed, it does feel as though we're powerless. Because it's forceful, and the real us is power. There's no force in God. It's just isness. So being a victim and knowing I made it is the eye of consciousness, not eye of Sharon. And to have compassionate, mighty companions is another, I would say, is what Dove was saying before, that it's not an accident that we all showed up together. You know, I had always realized when I was in Gather that it was equal. That was something that I had picked up very early on because I had no clue about God. I mean, I walked into Gather thinking, the only thing I did was look at Marianne Williamson and think, she'll be my teacher, because I tried Judaism and it wasn't what was attracting me. Why? Because the being was waking up. And religion isn't wrong. Religion can take you there too. But the Course was a teaching that showed up. And it's a very, very radical teaching. But keeping in mind that it's a classroom and you're not in a world is all that's left for this mind to do. What is it in this classroom in this moment am I going to accept? Just an isness, just that all is well. And the truth is, and I'm not just saying it, the picture that I had before is very different now. It's an expansion of consciousness. I wouldn't even know what wake means because we don't wake up. It's wakefulness that wakes up. We're not even there. So when I'm going to end this today and then turn it over to you, Dove, is just gratitude. You see, gratitude immediately puts you in the right mind. Egos do not know how to be grateful. They're always looking for this and that. And the unconscious ego really gets a lot of pleasure out of big suffering. It has to, because then it's important and then it's special. But what I have seen in the last couple of weeks is this body mind no longer wants to help people that don't want help, because that was something I did not realize, but it was subconscious. It's all guilt. It's the way I set this one in my thoughts is if I help people, then I'll be important, or then I'll be noticed, or then, and it's all about the fact of specialness. So I'm going to just turn this over to you and just end with gratitude for this day today, for this one moment that I'm in with Lori, Mighty Companion, Regis, Zuma, and Dove, and of course, Lynn. Okay, and thank you. Over to you, Dove.
All right, that was beautiful summation. Thank you for that. And it's been a wonderful hour of power with all, and with Spirit just always here with us, for us. And, you know, that gratitude, yeah, gratitude is a way to really know your creator. You are grateful for everything. And I look at the words. I think you mentioned this earlier, Sharon. I think I wrote it in the chat. Yes, we do not know what we are. We do not know what we are. And he tells you that in that famous lesson 189, paragraph 7. Simply do this, be still. Do not take with you one thought of what you are, because you don't know, or what God is, because you don't know, you know? Let go of everything you ever thought was true or real or good or right, nothing you were ever ashamed of. Hold on to nothing you ever learned from anything in this world. Forget this world. Forget this course and come with wholly empty minds into your God. That's pretty much why I use lesson 25 as my mantra lesson. I don't know what anything is for. That does free up your mind completely. And then what it always reminds me of the final lesson of this course, basically the final lesson, which I think I put up here on the board. Where is it? The final lesson is I put you in charge, Holy Spirit. This holy instant I give to you, be you in charge. I would follow you, certain that your direction gives me peace. If I need a word, if I need a word to help me, he will give it to me. If I need a thought, he will also give that. And if it's still and tranquil mind, those are gifts too. So of myself, I can do nothing. I'm willing to be led because I put Holy Spirit in charge. And that's the answer to you have taught yourself poorly. You need to have a new teacher. And that's what this course is all about, going from listening to the thoughts in my mind, my belief system, the lies I've taught myself, to what is the truth, because I do not know. And the truth will set you free. The truth will make you smile and laugh. This whole course is about don't take anything in this world seriously. You got to laugh. Truly, you got to laugh. I know that Regis agrees with that, and Zuma and Lori and Sharon and Gloria and everybody in the world. You got to laugh. You simply got to laugh. Love you all.
Thanks, Dove. Thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Lynn.
Thank
Hello.
you all. Thank you too. Yeah.
Bye. See you next week.
Thank you all. Yep.
Bye.
Welcome back, Lori. Bye-bye.